Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London, in England. I'm looking at a book today. It's only a short review, but it's a book from a colleague of mine called Stephen R Bown. He's written a number of really first-class books, and this one is called White Eskimo. It's this book here. You can see the actual book itself. The subtitle is Knud Rasmussen's Fearless Journey into the Heart of the Arctic. It's come to us from CAPO Press, which is a Merloyd Lawrence book. And this is actually the book itself. There's the spine, and then there's the back of the book with some of the comments. Now inside the book, in the dust jacket, you've got some inside cover comments there. And there's a nice picture of Stephen on the back, which you can see. And then in the book itself, we'll start at the back, there's a very detailed index. It runs to just over 300 odd pages. You see the index is at the back. Then of course there's a splendid bibliography because Stephen's put a lot of work into this, and there's a bit of a note on sources, what is a person's life, and basically how he's gone about writing a biography. Now the front of the book is really interesting. Nice little polar bear on an ice floe, and you've got some, again, interesting visuals, and then there's a note on terminology which is well worth reading, and then you go into the basic book structure itself, and you can see a nice map as well of exactly what we've got. It's in fact there's a map of Greenland as well, and then there's another much wider map there, and various other maps, in fact, of Alaska. And you can see again, for anyone familiar with this area, you've got quite a lot of useful stuff, just in case you've forgotten anything. Now it starts off with the winter of 1921, and he kicks off the story brilliantly. I thought this book was wonderful to read, and I've written a short review. Stephen Bown has written another book called The Last Viking, which I've also reviewed. But this particular, again, a short review, but this particular review, what I've given it the title, Bown's excellent biography of Rasmussen is not just a black and white adventure, because it isn't, it's much more than that. This is what I say, as I say, a short review. It takes special people to visit the poles, as my relatives would agree. We now have Bown's brilliant explanation and account of the exploits of a thoroughly rounded explorer who was much larger than life, and it's recounted, of course, in this book, White Eskimo. It's a book which can be added to our Polar and Inuit history library, and it's the story of Knud Rasmussen. The sheer breadth and challenge of the Arctic comes alive in this detailed cultural and scholarly work, which shows off Bown's biographical skills at their best with his patient researches. For me, I think it will remain a book to treasure for those of us who can now only read of these cold wildernesses and the extraordinary adventurers who have visited some of the most difficult parts of the planet. Let me conclude by saying that Rasmussen was a man many of us would have been most privileged to meet. And you can as well, of course, to a limited extent, by reading White Eskimo, which brings the man alive again. Bown pictures and evaluates the less than black and white career of an extraordinary journeyman. They still make some of them like Rasmussen in the 21st century, but there are not nearly so many today of his calibre around. So the best we can make do with here and now is this little polar gem of a biography set in the heart of the floating Arctic. And once again, thank you, Stephen, very much for your painstaking work in recording this man's fascinating activities. Bye-bye.